The wind moved like a living thing that night, sweeping across the high plains and howling against the shuttered windows of Cole Hartman's cabin. The air smelled of rain and cold iron, and the fire inside fought to stay alive, its orange glow trembling across rough-hewn walls. Cole sat beside it, sharpening his knife by habit, not need. The steel soft scrape was the only voice left in a house that had once known laughter. Outside, the storm gathered strength. He could hear it breathing through the hills, a steady, endless sigh that sounded almost human. Cole leaned back in his chair and watched the flames dance, letting it blur until it became memory. His wife's hair in the sun, his father's laughter under summer sky, all of it swallowed by the silence that followed their deaths. 4 or 5 winters he had lived like this, half man, half shadow. His only company, the old horse in the stable and the ghosts in his mind. When the first knock came, it was so faint he thought it was thunder. The second was sharper, followed by the creak of the porch boards under light feet. Cole froze. Nobody came this far out during a storm unless they were desperate or dangerous. He rose slowly, hand resting on the rifle by the door. The wind pushed in when he opened it cold and wild, and in that blur of rain stood a woman, barefoot, soaked to the bone, clutching a torn blanket around her shoulders. Her skin was bronze like wet earth, her black hair tangled and dripping. She didn't speak, only stared at him through the downpour, eyes dark and wide with exhaustion. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The storm screamed between them. Then she swayed, and instinct replaced suspicion. Cole stepped forward and caught her before she fell. Her body was light, shivering violently, her breath shallow as if she had run for miles. He brought her inside without a word, shutting the door against the rain's roar. She collapsed by the fire, trembling so hard her teeth clicked. He knelt beside her, pulling the old wool blanket from the cot and wrapping it around her shoulders. Her hands clutched it like a lifeline. "Sit still," he muttered, his voice rough from disuse. "You're safe here." She didn't answer, only stared at the flames as if they might burn her. In the flicker of light, Cole saw a cut along her arm, thin but deep, and a faint bruise along her temple. She'd been through more than a storm. He brewed coffee, strong, bitter, the way he always drank it, and placed the cup near her. She hesitated, then took it, both hands trembling. Steam fogged the air between them. Minutes passed. The fire grew louder than the rain. When she finally spoke, her voice was hoarse, the words halting. "I walked from the canyon. Soldiers came, burned the camps." Her accent wrapped around the English like music struggling through pain. Cole didn't ask which soldiers. He didn't need to. The frontier knew too many raids, too many stories whispered by those who survived. "Anyone with you?" he asked softly. She shook her head once, eyes lowering to the cup. No one left. Something in his chest shifted, slow and unfamiliar. Pity was easy. Understanding was harder. He saw, in her silence, the reflection of his own. 2 lives hollowed out by loss, meeting by accident in a world that didn't care for either. She set the cup down carefully, as if it were precious, and leaned closer to the fire. The warmth painted her face in copper light, softening the dirt and weariness. She looked younger now, maybe 23, though her eyes carried decades. Cole sat back, watching her. He tried to think of what to say, but words felt useless. He had forgotten the language of comfort. So he mended the fire instead, adding a log and letting its sparks climb the chimney like small prayers. After a while, she spoke again, almost to herself. "You should not help me. They will come. They will say you broke their law." Cole's jaw tightened. Law don't mean much when it forgets mercy. The words came out before he could stop them. Her gaze flicked toward him, measured, cautious. But behind that caution flickered something else. Not trust yet. Something smaller. The recognition of a soul that wasn't cruel. Outside, the wind beat against the walls, searching for cracks. Inside, the room felt smaller, heavier with unspoken things. Cole poured her another cup of coffee, then sat across from her on the floor. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Naya." He nodded. "Cole." They sat in silence again, 2 names drifting in the firelight. The storm began to ease, its growl turning to distant murmurs. She pulled the blanket tighter and stared into the flames as though they might reveal a future. When her eyes finally met his again, they held a quiet question he didn't know how to answer. Gratitude, maybe. Or warning. "You saved me," she said softly. "I just opened a door." "Sometimes," she murmured, "that is saving." The sound of rain softened into steady rhythm. Cole leaned back, feeling the weariness creep in, but his thoughts refused rest. Who was she running from? Would someone follow her tracks through the mud to his cabin by morning? He watched as she dozed off by the fire, head resting against the chair leg, her breathing even and fragile. The blanket slipped slightly, revealing the old woven pattern of her dress beneath, the kind he'd seen on traders from the southern tribes, bright colors now dulled by mud and blood. He rose quietly, went to the window, and looked out. The world was washed silver by the rain, the horizon gone. But some flicker of movement, caught his eye near the ridge. A shadow on horseback, distant, lingering too long before vanishing into the mist. Cole's pulse slowed, heavy in his throat. He turned back to the fire. The woman stirred, but did not wake. Outside, thunder rumbled once more, low and warning. He tightened his grip on the curtain and whispered to the night, almost as if confessing to it. "What have you brought me, Storm?" The answer came only as wind, cold against the glass, whispering through the cracks like a secret too dangerous to speak. Dawn came slow and gold, spilling over the ridges and turning the wet fields to mirrors. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silence that felt almost new. Cole stood on the porch, boots sinking into the mud, watching the mist curl off the grass. For the first time in years, his world smelled of life again. Damp soil, smoke, and something faintly sweet drifting from the cabin. Inside, Naya was awake. She had cleaned the hearth, her dark hair braided back, her torn blanket folded neatly near the fire. She moved quietly, like she didn't want to disturb the air itself. When Cole stepped in, she glanced up but didn't speak. Her eyes, rimmed in sleeplessness, held the same mix of fear and defiance he'd seen last night, but softer now, edged with curiosity. He set a pot of coffee on the stove. She watched him measure grounds, pour water, and stir. The sound of the spoon against tin was oddly steadying, like the ticking of a heart they both forgot they had. "You can stay till the weather clears," he said at last. "Then you'll tell me where you're headed." She didn't answer, only nodded once, a gesture half gratitude, half surrender. By midday, sunlight streamed through the small window. Cole mended a harness, while Naya sorted through his few supplies, setting things in order without being asked. She handled everything gently, as though she feared breaking the stillness between them. Once, she looked out at the open land beyond the fence and whispered something in Apache, a low, lilting sound that made the room feel sacred. "What did you say?" he asked. Her lips curved faintly. "I said the sky looks too wide when you have nowhere to go." He didn't know how to answer that, so he didn't. He just kept stitching the leather, slower now. Later, they shared bread and beans by the fire. The meal was plain, but the silence around it wasn't cold anymore. Naya sat with her knees drawn close, her eyes tracing the flame's edge. When she spoke again, it was not to fill the air, but to open it. "I had a sister," she said softly. "She was younger, brave. She ran when they came. I ran too, but slower. I thought she followed me." Her voice trembled. "The morning after, I found only her bracelet." Cole looked up, his hand stilling. The crackle of fire was the only sound between them. He could feel her words settle into him like rain into dry soil. "I buried mine too," he said after a while. "A wife. A boy. Fever took them. I kept the land, but it's just dirt now." Naya's eyes lifted to his. Something passed between them, not pity, not comfort, but recognition. Two souls who had lost their roots, now sharing the same hollow ground. Days folded quietly into one another. Naya helped him with chores, patching fences, and tending to the horses. The rhythm of their labor wove a fragile peace between them. She laughed once, a sudden, startled sound when the colt splashed her with muddy water. Cole hadn't heard laughter in that cabin for years. It struck him like sunlight through a storm cloud. He found himself watching her when she wasn't looking, the way her hair caught light, the way she hummed to herself in a tongue he didn't know. She moved like someone carrying centuries of silence. And yet, for all the calm that had settled, there was a shadow under it. Tracks near the ridge. Smoke on the horizon that wasn't from his chimney. Cole noticed it, but said nothing. He didn't want to break what little peace she'd found here. One evening, while the sky burned orange, Naya sat outside weaving something small, strips of cloth from her torn dress twisted into a braid. Cole joined her, sitting a few feet away. "Is that for someone?" he asked. "For the wind," she said. "It carries the names we've lost. Sometimes it gives them back." He nodded, unsure if he believed it, but liking the thought anyway. After a long silence, she looked toward him. "You are kind," she said. "But kindness is dangerous. People will talk." "They already do," he replied. "Always have. Doesn't change much." Her gaze lingered on him, steady and unreadable. They could come. The soldiers. The men from town. Cole's hand tightened around his knee. "Let them come. I've got nothing left they can take." She looked away, and he realized too late that wasn't true anymore. He had something again, a reason to feel, a presence that filled the quiet corners of his life. And that was precisely what could be taken. Night crept in slow. She built the fire while he checked the horses, his thoughts heavy. When he returned, she was sitting by the window, humming the same soft tune from before. It was a lullaby old as wind. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her. "What are you singing?" She hesitated, as if translating from memory. "It means the heart is a river. When it dries, the earth remembers." The words struck deeper than he expected. He thought of the years he'd spent trying to forget, of how memory had turned to stone inside him. But now, with her voice in that room, it felt like the stone was cracking. Rain began again, gentle this time, tapping the roof. She looked up at the sound, eyes soft. "The storm brought me here," she whispered. Maybe it meant to. Cole wanted to answer, but his throat closed around the thought. He only nodded, afraid that words would make it too real. When she turned back to the window, her reflection shimmered beside his in the glass. Two faces caught between light and shadow. She spoke without turning. "Someone will come soon. I feel it." "Who?" "The ones who hunt what they fear." The fire snapped, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney. Her tone was calm, certain, as though she'd already accepted it. Cole felt the weight of her words settle into the air, heavy and inescapable. He looked at her hands, scarred, steady, folded in her lap like she was praying not for safety, but for strength. Outside, thunder rolled again, faint but near. Cole went to the door and stared into the dark, his reflection fading into the night beyond. Behind him, Naya whispered something in her own language, a sound like wind slipping through the canyon. When he turned, she was watching him, her eyes lit by firelight, her expression unreadable yet fierce with quiet knowing. The next flash of lightning showed it clear, fresh hoof prints in the mud, leading straight toward the cabin. The morning rose pale and cold, the kind of light that carried no warmth. Cole stood by the doorway, rifle slung across his shoulder, eyes tracing the ridge where the hoof prints disappeared into fog. The world was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that comes before something breaks. Inside, Naya moved like a shadow, gathering a few things, her woven braid, the torn blanket she had mended, a small pouch of herbs that smelled of sage. Her face was calm, but her hands trembled. "They're close," she said softly. He didn't ask how she knew. Some people just felt danger before it showed itself. He nodded once, jaw tight. "You'll stay inside. If they come, I'll talk to them." Naya's gaze met his. "They won't listen. Then they'll hear." The words were steady, but his chest felt hollow. He had faced storms, coyotes, and loneliness without fear. But this quiet dread that threatened what little peace he'd found, this was something different. By mid-morning, the riders came into view. 3 men, all dust and iron, their horses cutting through the mist. The one in front wore a deputy's badge, his eyes sharp as flint. Cole stepped off the porch, boots sinking into the wet ground. "Morning, Hartman," the deputy called, his tone too easy. Heard you've got company. A woman, they say. Apache. Cole's hand brushed the rifle strap but didn't lift it. You heard wrong. The deputy smirked. Then you won't mind us taking a look. He nodded to the others, who began dismounting. Before Cole could speak, the cabin door opened. Naya stood in the doorway, blanket around her shoulders, her posture straight despite the fear behind her eyes. The deputy froze, his smirk fading into something colder. Well now, he said. Guess the rumors were true. Naya didn't flinch. I mean no harm, she said quietly. That ain't your choice to make, he snapped. There's been raids. Folks scared. You think we can let one of your kind wander free? Cole stepped between them, voice low but firm. You'll turn back now. The deputy laughed, a dry, hard sound. You lost your mind, Hartman? You harboring her makes you know better than them. Sheriff will want her. She's done nothing wrong, Cole said. You'll not touch her. The men shifted uneasily. The deputy's hand hovered near his gun. Rain began to fall again, thin and cold, pattering against hats and shoulders. Cole felt the weight of a rifle in his grip, the pulse in his throat steady as thunder. You got no warrant, he said. And you got no right. The deputy's lip curled. This ain't about law. It's about fear. And fear don't need permission. For a moment, no one moved. Then Naya stepped forward, past Cole's shoulder. If you take me, she said, will your fear end? Or will it just find another face? Her words hung in a rain, sharp and clear. The men hesitated. Cole saw it, that brief flicker of shame, before the deputy masked it with anger. Get her, he barked. Cole moved faster than thought. The rifle came up, not aimed to kill, but to warn. The men froze again, the sound of metal echoing through the wet air. You'll leave, Cole said, voice quiet but steady as iron. You ride away, and you tell the sheriff she's gone. You tell him a storm took her. The deputy stared at him, measuring his resolve. What he saw there, the unbroken kind of stillness that only grief can forge, made him pause. Then he spat into the mud. You'll regret this, Hartman. The world don't take kindly to traitors. Then the world's forgotten kindness, Cole said. They turned their horses, one by one, and rode off into the mist. The sound of hooves faded until only the rain remained. Cole lowered the rifle slowly. His hands shook for the first time since the war. Behind him, Naya exhaled a breath that sounded like release and sorrow at once. They'll come again, she whispered. I know. She stepped closer, looking at him as though memorizing his face. Why risk this? Because I'm tired of letting the world decide who deserves mercy. Her eyes shimmered. For the first time since she arrived, she touched his arm, light as falling ash. Then maybe mercy found you too. The rain thickened. Cole led her inside, lit the fire, and sat beside her in silence. The flames reflected in her eyes, two small suns burning in a sea of shadow. She held the woven braid she had made, running her fingers over it as if testing the shape of hope. I will leave soon, she said. You should not pay for my life. He looked at her then, really looked, the strength beneath her calm, the courage threaded through her fear. You're not a debt, Naya. You're a reminder of what's still good. Her lips parted, but no words came. Only tears, not loud, not broken, just quiet drops that carried too many stories. Cole reached out, hesitated, then brushed one away with his thumb. The world seemed to still around that gesture. They sat that way until the fire dimmed, until daylight waned into gold. Outside, the land breathed again, soft after the storm. Naya rose and went to the window. In the fading light, her reflection wavered beside the horizon. The wind will carry word of today, she murmured. It always does. Let it, he said. Let them know kindness still lives here. She turned, a faint smile ghosting her lips, not of joy, but of recognition. Then you'll need another chair, she said softly, for whoever the wind brings next. Cole looked at the empty seat by the fire, the one that had stayed untouched for years, and felt something inside him shift, like the thawing of old ground. As night fell, the storm's echo faded into distance. Naya's voice rose again, singing the same lullaby she had sung before, the one about rivers and memory. Only this time, Cole understood without translation. The heart is a river. When it dries, the earth remembers. He closed his eyes, letting the sound wash through him. The world outside remained uncertain, full of danger and judgment, but the space between them felt like peace. And as the final note faded, a new sound replaced it, the distant crack of a rifle, carried faintly on the wind. Naya's song stopped. Cole's eyes opened. Somewhere, beyond the ridge, another storm was coming.